Hi everyone, I am so excited because I am speaking with author Katrin, and actually it's Katrin.
That's right, Catherine.
And in my head I was hearing Katrin Schumann, and we're talking about her debut novel, and she has it right in front of her, and she's going to hold it up, The Forgotten Hours. Yay! I'm so sorry about that. I kept hearing it in my head, Katrin, and then I was like, no, I don't think it's Katrin, but...
No, that's fine. It's confusing for people. It's German, so a little
Right.
different.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I spent the entire day yesterday reading this book.
Oh,
And
wow.
uh oh my god. So I'm still there because I haven't read anything since, so I'm still in the book, and what an I cannot believe this is your debut novel. And I go on Amazon today. You have this book came out February 1st. You have over 600 reviews.
Yeah, it's incredible. I kind of knew while I was writing the book, it was a difficult book to write, and I kind of knew that it was going to evoke something. I wasn't sure, but I knew that if people gave it a chance and if people read it, that it would really be provocative and that they would want to talk about it. And so having it come out and actually seeing that people are making this effort to write reviews
Oh my
on
gosh.
Goodreads and Amazon and everywhere, it's breathtaking for me as a writer. Really, it means a lot. I want people to be talking and thinking and be immersed in this world in the way that you are.
Yeah, I mean, I interview authors every day, and they would die to get 50 reviews, okay? Like, and when I saw that, I was just like, I hope she understands like how
Oh
amazing
yeah.
this is. Like, this is not normal, okay? This is like a whole nother level, and the fact
Yeah.
that you have hit that nerve. But I'm going to tell you why I think you did. I mean, never mind that the subject is, the Me Too movement, because I've read many books on that, okay? Like, but
Yeah.
your book, you did it so perfect. If
Oh,
I can say that, you did
yeah.
it so unbelievably perfect. I mean, even if I didn't want, like, I couldn't get up from that book. I couldn't if I had wanted to yesterday, okay? Because it
Yeah.
just held on to me because the suspense. I love the main character, but let me just tell you a little bit, a little bit about me, and then you can understand about why I think that is that I was sexually abused by my father from the time I was 2 to 18. Okay, that's just part of my past, whatever. But what you got so on was him, okay? Because a lot of people don't. I don't know. When I was reading how you were projecting the father, and the name John.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, why is that not hitting me this morning? It's early. It was because, and he wasn't like a main character. He was a main character, but he wasn't the main character. But
Right.
I really would love to go back to reread some of the beginning parts because the way you introduce him is so, it's him. Like, it's just,
Wow.
it's the guy, it's the guy
Yeah.
that everybody loves, that
Yeah.
everybody's attracted to, who's magnetic, who's like out there, who's, Mr. Personality, who's, what, I didn't do anything wrong. What are you talking about? I didn't do anything, and just the way
Yeah.
you have these two girls interacting, I how did you come up with this storyline?
Well, thank you so much for that, first of all. And I should tell you, which is kind of funny, that in the first edit of the book, my John, that character was dead. And I think it was because I wasn't ready to kind of face him and to really embody him in my work yet. So I did all this work on the book and I had him conveniently not alive anymore in the present day storyline. And then it became obvious to me that it just wasn't going to work. I had to find a way to make him come alive for the reader in the same way that he exists for his daughter Katie, who, when we meet Katie in the present day, she's already kind of torn, but she's made her decision that she sort of has to stick by him, and she wants to stick by him, and so she's at that point where she's very torn. So I knew that in order to make the readers feel alongside Katie and go on the journey with her, that I was going to have to do a really this character feel plausible and not like an evil guy, in a train hanging out in the day. But, as we all know, and as you seem to know from experience, the people are very complicated and they don't present always the way that they actually are. And I wanted to kind of peel that back layer by layer by layer and do it very much from the daughter's perspective. So she can only be subjective about this because she's got her own relationship with her father and she defines everything according to that relationship. So it was kind of a tricky thing to peel away those layers.
Yeah, with Katie was that she wasn't abused, but she kind of was abused. He didn't physically abuse her, but he very much so mentally abused her. Like, very much so.
Yeah, I became super interested in this idea, which sounds kind of funny, but it's the peripheral victim. So somebody who isn't really isn't the victim themselves and isn't the accuser themselves or the accused, but somebody who's kind of got this awful front row seat, who is kind of there in the experience with everyone else, but hasn't themselves been physically harmed. And I wanted to explore how that being in that kind of position can be very, very emotionally draining and difficult and traumatic. I don't mean to equate it with the position of the actual victim of a crime, but there's something about that experience that leaves you feeling so vulnerable and traumatized in a way. And Katie is my character through whom I see that experience, which I think it's very valid. I think there are many, many people who are in our world who are sort of have that awful front row seat. Somebody they love has been accused, or a best friend has accused someone else, or somebody in their world has had this experience, and they have to try to it themselves.
Well, and I used to always tell people, counselors, people that I've had to deal with through my life, that the sexual abuse is like this one hand, but the huge other part is the mental abuse. Okay, which I don't think gets enough credit because it's the times when you're not being abused. It's like a mental game. They're working on you, and which is a narcissistic. It's totally narcissist. But you don't even realize you're being played, and she was being played, and that's why I think I'm telling you. I think that's why you did such an amazing job, because Lulu was one aspect of his personality, but Katie, she was the other aspect. He wasn't like he wasn't getting something from Katie, because he totally was. Even the phone calls and the everything that you fit in there, and how she felt so responsible for him, and who that's not real. That's not a real relationship with a father and daughter. He had a very sick thing going.
Yeah.
So
well, and as it we really feel we owe them this big debt of gratitude, and we have these wonderful memories of them, and then we're supposed to be able to adjust that according to other things that we discover have been happening, and it's incredibly difficult to do that. It really makes us second guess ourselves, and whether our instinct is correct or not, and it can throw us completely off course. Happened with Katie. She's discovered her whole life has been turned upside down because two people that she loves deeply are pitted against one another, and she just doesn't know what to believe anymore. And that's why I wanted to play with this idea of memory too, and try telling the story through those two dual timelines, so that I could show the reader, without having to really tell the reader, how these complicated stories are told and remembered and distorted, and how they come back and shift and change over time.
Yeah, that's so good too. And I screenshotted the beginning because I wanted to read to everybody the very beginning, which you start in June of 2007. Two girls, almost young women, but not quite, stand side by side on a dock in the shade of an old green boathouse. Their arms and legs prickle with goosebumps. Their skin is winter pale. One has a spray of purpling bruises on her thigh, and the other has forgotten to shave. And it's like you introduce them right away, that we like get a visual of them. And then at the end of that, because I love the end of the first chapter. And you say, Katie sits on the grass by the pile of clothes they tossed to one side. She tilts her head back and looks up at the sky, inhaling the smell of ferns and mud and a lingering hint of her father's body odor. Above her, the clouds vanish and the sky is a flawless blue, full of promise. This summer it will be different. She can feel it in her bones.
Yeah, well, I wanted to contrast that feeling of hopefulness that we have that so many of us have when we're teenagers, and the whole world feels just open and full of possibility. And in this particular case, these two best friends, they've had this wild together, and they've also both fallen in love with, they've got this incredible crush on this boy. So I wanted to contrast that experience of first time love, with the kind of the reality of how complicated our intimate relationships can become, especially when we've suffered trauma. So I picked that first opening scene actually changed quite dramatically. I had all these different scenes. It's a difficult book to know how to begin, right, partially because the topic is really, it's, on the one hand, it's a very heavy topic, and yet the book isn't supposed to be just this misery fest and this grind. So I wanted to have a little bit of lightness and love in it and show from the beginning that that there's reason to be hopeful, and that there's some beauty in that kind of naivete and in that friendship. And even though it has to go through a progression and it ends up changing, that beauty is still part of our world.
And you explore so many relationships in this book. I mean, the one with her father is just one of them. I mean, so you've got friendship and her mom and her brother and her, which was so weird for me too, because I have a younger brother. And
really? Wow.
And that's it. It was just me and him. So, when I was reading some of the reader questions about, you said something like how, their childhood was so different. Like, my brother and I are only 18 months apart, and our childhoods were completely different, like night and day. And which is crazy in a family of four that you can have that much of a difference, but it is possible. And then the friendship, and then her boyfriend, and, we aren't going to give any spoilers, but what I love about this is it just isn't just one relationship. She has all these relationships around it, which is what we all do, right? I mean, that's
right.
That's real life,
And I was interested in exploring how we see the truth through a very narrow lens, and that's the lens of our own experience, our own culture, our expectations, our perspective, our desires. And so Katie and her brother see things differently, partially because of age, partially because of gender, and partially because of the reality that they're two very different people. But so do Lulu and Katie. They have very different memories and experiences of what happened. And I think that's true of all of us. I mean, I think we like to imagine that we can come to some tidy truth in these complicated matters. And I think that sometimes it's very difficult to find that equilibrium. And that's what Katie's struggling for.
Right. And she's trying to put it all together and piece it and just, I can't say enough good things about this book. I really can't. I am just so happy about it. And so are you working on anything else like soon?
Yes, I am. I have another book that's going to be coming out next year, which I'm very excited about. It's currently untitled, but it's both a story that's somewhat similar but also quite different. So it's also about a woman who is faced with this impossible choice in her life, and it's due to circumstances entirely out of her control. And I'm asking a similar kind of question, like, what do you do when you're pushed in a corner and you have to make a choice and you're really not sure if you made the right choice? And in this case, in the new book, it's set in the 50s and in the 60s in post-war East Germany. So there's the entire backdrop of a country and a people that were looking toward the future and were hopeful and trying to kind of redefine themselves, both as a culture, but also politically, after, an absolutely horrific and disastrous experience in the Second World War. And so this young woman, Bettina, she finds herself behind the Iron Curtain in East Germany, and they're embracing communism, and that brings with it all sorts of unexpected and difficult realities. And she's forced to make a choice between her husband, who's a member of the secret police, and her lover, who's an idealistic young communist, and her daughter, who ends up stuck behind the Iron Curtain.
I can't wait. You just write relationships so well that I just know, like, I can't wait to read
I
it.
appreciate that. It's, and also setting and place is very important for me. You could probably tell in reading the book that I'm a very visual person,
yes.
and I really dream myself into these places, and I can't write the story unless I have a very strong sense of setting.
Right.
So in both this book, The Forgotten Hours, the setting by the lake, that idyllic summer when the girls are teenagers, that was incredibly evocative and important for me to get that right. And equally in the book that's going to be coming out next year, that sort of windswept, wild setting of an island in the Baltic, which is the north of Germany, right, set a very strong tone for the book overall.
I can't wait. I do want to say I looked to see what other books you'd done. Now, this is your first novel, but you've written 2 other books, right? And the one about, The Secret Power of Middle Children?
Yeah. So, are you a middle child? Or
I'm not. I'm the oldest, but I have 6 children. But I know for a fact I only have 1 middle child, and it's my second son, because there was a break. I had 3 children and then 3 children, and he really embodies them. He never gave it up either. Like, no matter how many kids I had, he kept that middle child status. So
yeah. Well, for many years after graduate school, I trained as a journalist, and I pretty quickly realized that journalism was not going to be my strong suit. That I was really much more interested in the storytelling, the like longer storytelling aspects, the profiles and that sort of stuff. So I spent quite a few years as a collaborative author, a nonfiction writer, and I would pair up with other people and help them write their books. And it would either be under my own name, as in The Secret Power of Middle Children, which I wrote with Katrin Schumann, or I would also write books just entirely under somebody else's name. And it was a lot of fun. I got to do a lot of research and look into topics that I found fascinating. But I tell you, all along, I was writing, I was working my way toward writing this kind of book. I was sort of observing the world around me and honing my skills as a more creative, literary kind of writer. And so I think it all played into itself and ended up here with this final product, this novel.
Yeah. I just love it. I can't wait to tell everybody about this book. But thank you so much. I'm going to have all of your links listed below, all of Katrin's links listed below, and of course the link to the book and your website. And it was my pleasure to read it yesterday. It really was. It was amazing, amazing.
So much. Well, it's my hope it will get people talking with their husbands and sisters and brothers and lovers and wives and friends, and just thinking more deeply about this kind of topic. I think can only end up in a good place.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. You have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Happy reading.
Bye-bye.
Bye.